Welcome, everyone. Today, we are unpacking one of the absolutely most dramatic, high-stakes moments in all of history. We're looking at the events found in Esther chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. And we're going to discover together how true courage and, well, just incredible patience intersect when you're staring down a literal existential threat.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to really ask yourself, when you are faced with a life-or-death crisis, do you rush right into action or do you wait? Because, it's human instinct to just panic, right? To rely on our own cleverness and try to force a rapid solution when the pressure is really on. But what we're going to see today is a masterclass in the exact opposite. We're looking at a young queen who exercised this shocking, totally counterintuitive restraint when the lives of her entire people were on the line.
Moving into Section 1, Risking It All, Approaching the Throne.
So, to understand the tip of this iceberg, this highly visible, absolutely terrifying action Esther is taking by approaching the king's inner court uninvited, we really have to look at the historical context. The previous Queen Vashti, she was brutally deposed and banished simply for disobeying a royal command. The precedent in this empire was absolute, unquestioning submission. And now, here's Queen Esther, preparing to defy royal protocol by entering the inner court to see King Ahasuerus without an invitation. Listen, this isn't just a minor breach of etiquette. This is an automatic death sentence, unless the king decides otherwise. Talk about high stakes.
And just to amplify the tension here, 30. It had been exactly 30 days since the king last summoned Esther. She was essentially being ghosted by her royal husband. Imagine the doubt that must be creeping into her mind. Has she lost favor? Is the king angry with her? Stepping into that throne room wasn't just some political gamble. It was a deeply personal, literal life-or-death leap into the unknown.
Which brings us to Section 2, the banquet strategy. A surprising request.
So, this is where we reach the climax of the throne room encounter. She steps through those massive doors. The king is sitting right there on his throne. And we just have to ask this pivotal question. Why didn't the king get angry? It is genuinely shocking. Instead of feeling offended or, signaling his guards to just take her away, he extends the golden scepter to her. It's this immediate sign of absolute grace and pardon. Just like that, her life is spared.
But guys, these surprises do not stop there. The king is so pleased to see her that he actually offers her a blank check. He says, "What is your request? It shall be given you, even to the half of my kingdom." Now think about it. Any normal person in a panic would immediately blurt out the problem, right? "Haman is trying to kill my people! You have to stop him!" But Esther? She simply asks the king and the villain Haman to attend a private dinner party. It is just an amazing display of discipline.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens at that very dinner party. The king asks her again what she wants, and she delays again. She says, "Let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet that I will prepare for them." She is strategically playing hard to get here. She knows that haste makes waste. By delaying, she's heightening the king's curiosity, she's deepening his trust in her, and crucially, she is lowering Haman's guard.
Let's look at Section 3, Fasting and Prayer, the Hidden Foundation.
This brings us right below the surface of the iceberg. You see, before she ever put on her royal robes, she prepared spiritually. On day 1, she called all the Jews in Susa to fast. That meant 3 entire days and nights. 0 food, 0 water. She didn't act on hot-blooded emotion, and she definitely didn't act on mere human logic. She and her people spent 3 whole days completely emptying themselves of their own self-reliance before she took a single step toward that throne room.
And this ties directly to biblical promises regarding fasting. The source material highlights this incredibly beautiful verse from Isaiah 58:8. Fasting in this context wasn't some kind of magic spell, right? It was a desperate, humble plea for God's mercy and intervention. It was literally the entire nation saying, "We cannot save ourselves, we need you."
On to Section 4, God's hidden hand, the ultimate director.
And this brilliantly illustrates that the true source of Esther's success wasn't just her cleverness. Proverbs 21:1 tells us that the king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. Esther couldn't change King Ahasuerus' heart. Let's be real. No human can manipulate genuine favor out of a volatile dictator. But God can. God is the one who turned the king's potential wrath into extraordinary grace, totally unseen, right behind the scenes.
This quote from Proverbs 16:7 echoes the exact same truth.
Esther's favor wasn't just due to her physical charm or her beautiful royal robes. It was a divine reward. Because she chose to please the Lord and rely completely on Him through fasting and prayer, God paved the way, literally softening the hearts of those around her.
When we bring this all together, a really fascinating dual picture emerges. On the human side, we have Esther's visible strategy, her patience, the mystery of the banquets, her impeccable timing. But running right parallel to that is the spiritual reality, God actively softening the king's heart, arranging the circumstances, and providing her with an unnatural calm. God's hidden providence, perfectly partnered with her composed, spirit-led diplomacy, it's like a perfectly choreographed dance.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Lessons of True Faith, Applying the Iceberg Strategy.
So, the crucial point is, how do we actually apply this historical explainer to our lives right now? Well, we can draw out a 3-step framework for exercising true faith in our own lives. First, turn to God. Second, trust God will work. And third, follow God's timing. Let's break these down real quick.
Step 1 is turn to God. When a crisis hits, just like with Esther, our very first move shouldn't be panic. It shouldn't be making 20 frantic phone calls or drafting some angry email. It must be prayer. It requires intentionally laying down our own cleverness, our own strategies, and fasting from our self-reliance so we can seek His mercy first.
Moving to step 2, trust God will work. Remember, Esther went into that throne room fully believing she couldn't change the king's heart herself. And you know what? You and I cannot force people to change either. We can't force circumstances to instantly resolve. We really must recognize God as the ultimate director here. Our job is simply to act faithfully and courageously. The actual changing of hearts, that is entirely God's department.
Finally, step 3, follow God's timing. And honestly, this might be the hardest one for sure. It means avoiding the rush of human impatience. Think about it. When Esther was offered half the kingdom, she could have demanded immediate gratification right then and there. Instead, she moved at God's pace, which required agonizing but absolutely necessary waiting. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is just hold your ground and wait for that second banquet.
Which brings us to a final thought for today. Even when God's timing doesn't match yours, will you trust the unseen work of His hands? Esther's story is such a powerful blueprint. I want to challenge you to apply her courageous patience to whatever struggle you are facing today. Thank you so much for exploring this with me. Keep learning, and I will see you in the next explainer.